Cool. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Zach.
Well, thanks
Thank you,
so much.
sir.
All right. So first of all, if you're interested in the technical specifics, I recommend scooching up a little bit closer because I'm going to have a lot of slides with the videos of code. And otherwise, we'll make sure it's available somehow out on the internet. So JavaScript for WordPress jockeys. I have almost no PHP experience and almost no WordPress experience. So this talk title is largely a lie. It's really about JavaScript for everybody. Because the way I figure it is if we choose libraries that work in a wide range of environments, then we can become far more productive no matter what our specific situations are. So today, yeah, that's going to be a problem, isn't it? Just use your imagination. Yeah, we're here, and you can hear a little bit about me, hear a little bit about the company I work for, TableXI. Then we're going to look at a fake project that will be similar to the type of request I would get that's just a little bit outside of the jQuery plugin box, and then look at the workflow that I used for my first time developing JavaScript in WordPress using a 100% browser-based workflow. So it's me at the other Zach. Feel free to follow me. That lets me know how much self-worth I have, the number of followers. It's great to have a specific quantity on that one right there. Oh, and if you see a picture of Chicago or me, then it was probably taken by my fiance, Shannon, who's sitting right there. Thank you, Shannon. This is my general skill set. I'm mainly a front-end JavaScript-focused developer with some experience in Ruby. Did a couple tours of duty with Clojure. Very, very, very small amounts of CSS. And probably at this point, 213 lines of PHP. So that's and almost no ability to adult. Just once again, ask Shannon. I work at TableXI. I like this company a lot. I hadn't planned on working there. It was my turn to go back to a product company. I was done with consulting, but I love the people there so frickin' much. And we're often not actively hiring, but right now we actually are. So if you are somebody who is or is interested in a hybrid UX designer developer role, designing developer, developing designer, either way, then come talk to me or shoot an email at insert email address that I should know that's on the website. All right. Imagine that you get a feature request to build something that moves in the browser. This is for a pet psychic website, and it is a pet psychic finder called Pet Psychic Connect. And once again, it'll actually involve a little bit of JavaScript, which, and I find that there's a lot of backend developers who touch jQuery just a little bit, and a lot of UX-focused front-end engineers that'll touch JavaScript a little bit, but it's often the no man's land, right? So let's take a look at the details of their requirements. This is a little small, so I'll read like the overview. It's going to sound really familiar. It's your typical innovate, co-working, food truck fund, long shadow, hacker, grok, Steve Jobs, integrate venture capital, yada yada yada. So yeah, we're putting text on a website. We're not saving the world. And to be clear, these are pets that are psychic, not psychics that specialize in pets. So there's some ambiguity there we might have to suss out. People can either bring up psychic dogs or psychic cats. Psychic dogs have a much simpler workflow because they're more engaged. Cats, however, just don't give a shit. Notice these arrows indicating how few shits these cats get. So they might be psychic, but if they don't care, they're not going to work for you. So we have to add conditional filters based on the species of pet psychic that we have. All right, so let's get into the actual code, the actual workflow. I want to talk to you a little bit about my library choice first. I often reach for a library called Vue, V-U-E, because it works in the way that you're about to see it. It works well with high-end tooling, stuff like Webpack, or Browserify, or Gulp, or Broccoli, or Grunt, or whatever your NPM-driven workflow of choice is. However, Vue doesn't require it. A Hello World in React requires a very large Facebook-scale toolchain. Vue, however, like jQuery, requires a script tag. So we've got far more freedom in our ability to use it. And Vue, considerably better performing than React. It's a little bit better performing than React if you have experienced gnarly React engineers who know the ins and outs and know how to properly render the components in the way so that when there's a massive change, it doesn't have to diff the entire trees against each other. Like at that point, Vue's only a little bit faster than React. For the novice and moderately experienced developer, Vue's going to be far, far faster. So it's handy that way too. However, there's no Vue native, so that's a good reason to choose React. And right now, the server-side rendering story for Vue is still in its early days. So it looks like it's catching up. So if you're interested in server-side rendering, a lot of job security because of the extra typing involved in React, or native apps, then React's the way to go. But if you're looking to put text on web pages that move a little bit, Vue's fine. All right, so I am using a hosted WordPress solution. This was the one that I didn't have to pay for, so it's the one I went for, Pantheon. You might be able. I'm going at twice speed here. It will commit the files to source control as they're changed on the server. So typically, I suspect most people would follow a git pull, git push type workflow. I didn't really feel like it here. I just wanted to see how little work I could get away with. So what I'm doing right here is I'm installing a plugin called Scripts and Styles, which lets me get around a lot of the intentional limitations of the WordPress engine. It tries really hard to strip all the things I'm trying to do away. So I'm kind of perverting its very purpose here. But what you're seeing here is I'm using the plugin to add a custom widget that's called a hoop, like jumping through hoops, which will include the Vue library. So everything right here is just to get the Vue library into the page without me having to develop a plugin or a theme. And the very bottom at the end here, could you see any of that? Was any of that visible at all? Okay, this isn't really. Okay, this is going to be a lot. All right. Yeah, let's give that a shot. See if. See if that helps. Is that, are my cataracts acting up, or is that kind of fuzzy? There we are. Okay. All right. let's give a couple more videos a shot, and if it's still not super visible, then I'll just live code some stuff. And you can all ask me questions, and we'll see how far we get that way. Okay, so bottom line is I just needed to get the Vue library into the page right there. So it's in the page, which means I know that I can do just about anything now, because I've got my in. The word on the side there is bootstrap. It's fine. So what I'm going to do in this next section is I'm going to put some double curlies in the page, and then I'm going to initiate the app. So what you'll see is you'll see rendered on the website itself double curlies 1+1, just like that. Then I'll bootstrap the app, reload the page, and then you'll see that rendering into 2. And that just lets me know visually that everything's up and running. And you'll
I think if the right side is off, it might be a little bit easier to see.
Sorry. So which side?
Like you have the left side kind of on that bar, the right side is on the bar. Because there's nothing going on the right side.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the scene.
We can try flipping, this white wall over here.
What about like putting a bar like right where the divider is, like right where the pole is, put it right where the scroll bar is?
We'll figure this out. All right. All right. Let's not get too excited here. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So, did I actually? All right. All right. So here I am putting that 1+1 into the page. We're looking at the pet psychic connection. There's that 1+1 just sitting there. Next, I'm just going to go to the script tag that's sitting at the bottom of the page. So this is part of the plugin, the scripts and styles plugin. Always be using strict, because I'm not smart enough to debug JavaScript without it. All right, I printed to the console on my reel just to make sure that the stuff I'm typing is actually parsing and getting to the web page. And now I'm just throwing a document ready on there because it's probably a good idea, even though I'm in the footer. I'm hitting save, refreshing again. You'll see right here that says document ready. Take my word for it. So we know that that document ready function is firing. Now in the document ready, we've got new Vue, and that's the thing that boots Vue up. And I'm giving it the entire page, the element body, because I'm going to componentize based on components instead of the app, and we'll see that a little bit later. And that 1+1 is gone, and now we've got a 2 on the web page. So now, even though we're statically rendering certain texts, now we're seeing just a very little bit of dynamism. It looks static to the user, but it is being rendered on client side. So next up, we're going to introduce a custom tag to to a page, a WordPress page. And then we're going to see the error that Vue generates when it sees a custom tag that it doesn't recognize. Vue, as well as several other JavaScript libraries, will inject components into the DOM based on the custom tags that you define. It's a little bit similar to Polymer and the what's Polymer trying to polyfill, the thing that's never actually going to ship? Web components. Yeah. All right. So we're going to edit the connect page. we're going to add a shortcode. I learned so many of these terms over the last few days. A shortcode lets us get around the intentional limitations of WordPress. Since that's a custom element, Vue-connect, WordPress is going to strip that out under certain circumstances. And now it gave me the name of that shortcode. Now I'm pasting it in there, hitting refresh. And that says unknown custom element Vue-connect. Because, once again, it sees a custom element and it's not registered as a Vue component. So it's letting you know that you might have made a mistake, which is actually radically different than most JavaScript frameworks. It'll actually give you hints based on, well, it'll actually give you hints. I can just stop there. All right, now we're going to create that component. So we're going to create another hoop. Once again, this is the scripts and style custom WordPress. What was that word I just said? The not plugin. Shortcode. Shortcode. A hoop is a shortcode specifically associated with this plugin, so we can inject scripts in. Then we're going to register the component with Vue.component, and then we're going to include that hoop in that custom hoop plugin. All right, so we're back in the scripts and styles control panel. I'm creating component_connect hoop. And I'm writing valid HTML here. This is just an HTML snippet. And I have a template tag, a script tag, and a style tag. Because I can actually create a single file isolated component using nothing but frickin' HTML. So right there I'm typing Vue.component, Vue-connect, and just passing it an empty object right now. Eventually I'll be adding keys to that object. Now I took that shortcode, copied it, going into my widget, pasting it. That will include it in the DOM. Now I refresh the page, and it is no longer complaining about that about the unknown tag being there. But we're not doing anything, right? So far, I'm doing like a magic trick, but there's no actual external evidence of magic going on. So let's get something on the screen. We're going to point our component at the template. That will allow us to start actually doing things. So we're going to go back to our single file component. Once again, it's just HTML. We're going to give it a template key with the ID of template-connect, which is just the ID of the component that's right above it. And now I'm just throwing an H3 tag in there that says hi there, just to see if I can actually get a thing on the screen. So I hit save there, I refresh my page, and hi there shows up, which is, once again, rendered client-side on this WordPress page. But nobody would even know if that was rendered server-side or client-side. It doesn't get us very far, right? So let's get some stuff in there that'll actually move. So next is just throwing the HTML and CSS for that top search panel. And I'm mostly showing myself type this stuff out because I don't want anything to magically appear on the page. Everything that's happening in this website, you're seeing me type out right here. Except for that stuff I just pasted in there. So, yeah, I'm used to working with some level of front-end tooling, and I find that even though I don't write much CSS, I miss the CSS tooling far more than I do the JavaScript tooling. I mean, if you get used to auto prefixer, hard to go back. All right, so I'm just adding a little bit of extra spacing there to make it look like a thing. And now we've got some, once again, static-looking HTML with a couple buttons. That most of that styling is provided by the 2016 default WordPress theme. So let's actually bind some events to those buttons. So we're going to bind events to those buttons with weird-looking @click HTML attributes. And then we're going to point those @click HTML attributes to JavaScript methods and just do a JavaScript alert to make sure that I didn't have any syntax errors. All right, there I'm typing @click equals handle dogs. Hit save, refresh. I get a warning again, get a hint saying, hey, handle dogs isn't a thing. Maybe you want that to be a thing. So I give my component a methods key and a handle dogs method with an alert that says handle dogs called. And then when I click on handle dogs, an alert pops up. So a little bit more typing than, well, a lot more typing than jQuery on click. So let's see if the extra upfront work pays off. Spoiler alert, I think it probably does. Otherwise, I'm just wasting your time. So the magical part of Vue, to me at least, is it will update your user interface when your data models change. And it will do that without you having to call any special methods or you having to call render or scope.apply. It just apparently magically will update your stuff for you when your JavaScript objects change, which I have yet to see another framework pull this off as consistently as Vue. And it actually does so reactively by tracking which changes took place. You'd think React would do that reactively, but it actually does diffing of DOM trees. But that's neither here nor there. And then, so we're going to add the data function. We're going to add a key to the data function called species, and then we're just going to print that to the screen using the double handlebars. So whenever you see double handlebars, that means I'm just printing data to the screen. So there I am adding that data key to our option. And the data always it has to return an object. And it's species dog. Now I'm adding another div. And there's the handlebars that say species right there. Hit refresh. And dog showing up. Once again, still nothing's moving on that page. So let's add a binding and get a little bit closer to something moving on the page. So the mustache is one way that you print stuff to screen. If you see a HTML attribute that starts with colon, like colon href, that just means, hey, Vue, whenever the data, whatever's in whatever href is set to, just update the href attribute to that. So it's a replacement for the mustache inside of your HTML attribute values. And so you'll see exactly what I'm talking about in just a second, maybe. All right, so input type text, and then colon placeholder instead of just plain placeholder, and that equals species. Without that colon, that placeholder is going to be like the literal word species, but because I have the colon there, Vue knows to go out to whatever scope it's in and grab the scope variable species and then assign it to that HTML attribute. So that's the two ways that you'll be using data, that you would be using data to update the DOM. The double curly mustache and the leading colon. So And then the way that we listen to user input is the at. So we print using mustaches and colon, and we input using at. So just like I added handle dogs, I'm going to handle cats. Far more pessimistic about my ability to pull that one off. And we're just going to add another alert because I always want to know right away if my stuff works. I never want to have to troubleshoot more than one line at once. And there I am, just making sure both buttons still work. Now we're going to actually mutate the data. So whereas before those functions were just alerting, now we're going to update species based on which one is clicked. And you'll see as I click here, that changes. And it doesn't matter what updates that data. I can spit that out. I can get a hold of that Vue component in the JavaScript console and change the data, and the DOM will still update. If you have any experience with Angular, you'll know that Angular doesn't do that. You have to use scope.apply. Same with React. React doesn't do it without help. I don't think Ember will do it without using the Ember-based method. So Vue has great interoperability because so long as you have some means of sharing data with whatever else is changing the data, you can get the user interface to update without a lot of extra work. So it gets along with just about anything. Heck, you can even get a pretty decent workflow going using nothing but 2 browser tabs in WordPress. All right, next is one of my favorite features of Vue, which is a computed property, which is just a function that returns a value based on whatever's in the data object. And it has all of the great dependency tracking. So that function that returns the value doesn't run again until it has to run again. And you get it for free. So we don't want that placeholder to actually say dog. We want it to say, hey, find a psychic dog near you, or just find a psychic dog, or find a psychic cat. I mean, it'd be silly to even consider having a placeholder say anything else, really. Oh, sorry, I forgot to double speed this, so we're in this one together. So I like to start every function with var self equals this, so that way I never have to think about the value of this. I've seen the greatest minds of my generations wasted on this. Just it's not worth it. Var self equals this or fat arrow, and return self.species is computed. I just want to make sure that it works. And I'm changing colon placeholder to search placeholder, and lo and behold, dog is computed. So I'm just that's how fast I actually type. I'm just very, very slowly updating that to the actual value. But at the end of this, that'll say, find a psychic dog near you. Find a psychic dog. I lied. All right, now, the problem with this workflow is if I wipe out everything that's in that text box and hit save, my work's gone. Right? Yeah, that's a problem. It's a problem. Like, I hate having anything these days that's not in source control. Life is better with an undo button. So I'm going to grab everything that's inside of that text box, create a new gist, call my gist connect backup. And it's a public gist. I'll send a link out to the group. Paste it in there, hit update. Source control, done. I'm not proud. Hey, I'm not the only one in here who used to just FTP things up with Dreamweaver. Right? We got stuff done back in those days. All right, let's get some test data in there. All right, just magically making some test data appear. It's 2 arrays, 1 dogs, 1 cats. Go figure. And I'm just showing that these exist in the Vue DevTools. By the way, the Chrome extension, Vue DevTools, allows you to see the state of every single one of your components on screen. So it makes debugging much easier. But unless our users are going to search for their dog or cat psychics through the Vue DevTools, we should probably print those to screen. So, and we do that with the v-for HTML attribute. This is how we do loops. So I'm just creating another div, place for the search results to go. v-for equals a thing. I'm going to say animal in dogs, dog and dogs. And then just say dog.name. So right here, see that we are printing Dennis and Daisy to the DOM. And over here, this is just like a block variable in Ruby or an argument to one of your iterators in JavaScript. That could be foo or bob. It doesn't matter. We declare that variable name dog right there. And that's why we're able to say dog.name. And everything inside of this loop, like you'd expect, has access to everything in the outer scope as well. So it's very similar to a lot of the constructs that we work with day to day. It works pretty much how you'd expect. So we can do computed properties with strings, but we can also do computed properties with arrays. So just calling this results, and it's going to return either the array of dogs or the array of cats, depending on which one the user has selected. So if self.species equals dog, we're going to just return our dogs array. And if species equals cat, we're going to return our cats array. I'm going to save that. Going to update our template. Yeah, psychic. I think that's a better variable name. Just like the idea of hardworking psychic dogs. I'm terrified by the prospect of lazy psychic cats. All right, and now we're displaying our data. Collapsing that and see result, and it's tagged with computed, so we know it's a computed property. And as I click on either one of those, our list updates right there. And we can see everything move inside, so there's no mysteries as far as what happened where. I don't have to hunt down like where the code is for the click handlers. I just follow the component tree down. So at any point, I can track why whatever's happening is happening in the DOM. If you've ever had to untangle a jQuery mess, then you understand what the opposite of that is. All right, let's update in source control again. And once again, everything you're seeing on that screen, you saw me either type out or sometimes paste in with the styles. So, and that's why I'm showing you even the stuff like the way I'm doing source control. And just really briefly showing that you can actually look at the revision history here. It's, like I said, I would have killed for that back in 2003 when I was just doing awful things via FTP. All right, now vModel. vModel is the way Vue allows us to bind a variable to an HTML form element. So that way, whatever a user has typed into a text input, the variable we've bound that to will just automatically update and keep those two in sync for the most part. All right, I'm adding a new key on our data called search term, and I'm just gonna spit that out to the DOM for right now. It's just called search term right there, and add v model equals search term right on that input element. Now when I type, I don't know if anybody ever saw those early Angular demos back in the day where they'd have somebody type on the page and they would automatically update in the DOM. Like, it's a very popular demo but I've never ever actually gotten that feature request ever. Like show the word that the person typed right up there. It's not very useful. So let's actually filter this list of psychic pets based on what's in that search term, because we've got a psychic pet app to ship. And we do that with the filter by built-in filter function in Vue. If you've ever, some templating languages, you'll see a vertical bar denote that's a filter, and it's just a function that takes data and spits data back out. There's a built-in function called filter by in Vue that will work pretty magically. So just bar filter by search term, that's the syntax there. And now I can actually start typing, and it will filter on all of the keys of that array of objects. So even if I type dog for Sammy's actually dog, it knows to look both in that psychic's specialties and that psychic's name. So it gives you like a fairly robust search ability for very little typing at all. And then finally, I'm just going to throw a little bit of styles on there to make it look kind of close to what I had up there for the that delightful wireframe I mocked up. I'll spare you the typing. But that's just HTML. And I'm using place kittens. By the way, I thought that place puppies was still working, and it turned out to not be. So the next iteration of this might have to be bears and cats, because there's still a place bears service. So that's why both species are using cats for the placeholders. And this is it. So I've taken the last half an hour or so, kind of explaining this out step by step, but it's about 10 minutes worth. What you're seeing on the screen right there is about 10 minutes worth of work. And once again, the tooling required is a script tag and a means of saving HTML. And that's it. Like I said, I like high-powered tools, but I don't like being gated by those high-powered tools. I work in a variety of environments, and I don't always have the ability to use the workflow that I want to use. And a lot of times I'm adding just a little bit of JavaScript to a mostly server-rendered site, because server-rendered sites do pretty okay. I thought somebody got excited just for one clap. Whenever I get a certain amount of JavaScript code on the front end, I find that I almost inevitably start running into some level of pain. And I was thinking about this last night, and I almost think it's how spoiled I am by server-rendered HTML. Because HTTP is a stateless protocol, in theory. Get a request, you send down a web page, you send down an HTML file. However, there's this mismatch between front-end templates and changing state. So whereas, like I said, HTML, basically a template per request, or even if it's multiple templates per request, whatever comes down is down, and then maybe you go out and you tweak things a little bit after the fact. But if you've got a giant JavaScript rendered app, suddenly you've got this giant ball of state. And those templates no longer map nearly as closely as what we might be used to on the server. So I find that if I can stick to server-rendered UI as much as possible and add little islands of JavaScript here and there, then I can avoid a situation where I have a big mess. But for that to work, I need my tools to be able to scale down appropriately. I'm not going to use, like, if that was the only bit of interactivity on a page that was otherwise a marketing site, I'm not going to use frickin' Webpack for that, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. Every once in a while, I need to be able to use script tags, because sometimes that's the level of tooling that I need for the job. So in addition to tooling as a hard requirement, gating certain technologies from certain tasks, it also gates certain technologies from experience levels. Because if you are interested in learning something like React, and I constantly pick on React because it's a popular one. A couple of years ago, I'd just be picking on Angular, even though I was actively writing Angular. Somebody looking to learn React who has no JavaScript experience has a giant cliff to climb, because they have to learn about the tooling first, as well as a brand new, not quite JavaScript templating language. It's not a templating language called JSX, as well as the mental model that goes into it, as well as thinking in components. And if all you have, once again, is that one bit of interactivity, that's a lot of overhead. So there needs to be something in between giant balls of JavaScript with high barriers to entry and jQuery hell. And I'm looking for that middle spot. But anyways, I'm Zach Briggs, at the other Zach. I work at TableXI. We're looking to hire a developing designer, designing developer. And thank you so much for your time. I don't know how much time we have, but do you have questions?
Yeah, please, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The very first step you took where you introduced Vue Connect, and I guess like Vue found that to be an error. But why did you even think there was anything to look at?
Because it knows that the typical use case with Vue is that you're going to be adding weird HTML elements that are not registered with the browser's real HTML elements. And so if it sees one of those in there, then it thinks, hey, you might be confused as to why something isn't rendering. Did you forget to do anything? And Vue does a pretty good job of skirting the line between being clippy and being annoying and just leaving you out in the cold and not even giving you a hint. So it's trying to be helpful there.
Okay.
So yeah, it's developer ergonomics in that one.
You used handlebars and mustaches for curly brace interchangeably. Were you referring to two different things, or?
Oh, no. I was just saying.
So it was always double curly brace.
Always double curly brace. Yeah.
I've heard of it. Templating engine called handlebars.
Yeah.
And that's what that was. Or similar, just same.
It is like the same.
Convention.
Yeah, same convention. I'm trying. There's probably even a specific name for that templating convention where you have like characters that are kind of unusual.
Right.
And it's configurable. So when I was working on a craft site, which is where I wrote my 200 or so lines of PHP, we switched what Vue was using to something else because Craft uses Twig, which also wants double curly braces. So that way we weren't having a conflict there. So, and luckily Vue provides the ability to configure that. So that way you can render so that way you can just throw your Vue templates in your server-side components without those conflicts. see another hand.
Can I double up, buddy?
Sure. Oh, sure.
So I'm a little bit, I don't know anything about Frontend, but could you kind of elaborate on what the difference, what's the scope of what Ember.js is versus React versus, so I've been looking into Meteor, which has some real-time elements that you were alluding to, but can you kind of layman's terms, kind of elaborate on those?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So it's the Ember is a delightful framework by open source developers that I trust dearly. I mean, they've done amazing things in Rails and Sprout Core, but I can't use it very often because the hard architectural line that they have drawn is they want control over everything inside of that HTML tag. They want control over the front end. And if you're in a single page app kind of way, Ember is absolutely the way to go. It is the least painful means of developing a single page app I've seen. There might be a few other options at this point, but my preferences go towards smaller chunks of front-end functionality. So both React and Vue target components. So the rest of the page can be whatever, and then you can just throw a component into, so basically just starting with a div. And they're both strictly concerned with that render functionality, basically being the view. And somebody else handles the data, somebody else handles the routing, and there may be something in their ecosystem, but the core libraries just don't care about that. And then Meteor is in the other direction, whereas Ember just wants your front end, and if you can give it your front end, it'll give you a lot of efficiencies because it knows a lot of things that are in place. Meteor wants your front end, your back end, your package manager, and your
data store. So what's interesting about Meteor is, well, for me, and the confusion is that if you want to dial into it and you go to the main site, they'll actually now, it just recently changed, I think with 1.3, but is that you can opt to learn about and follow a tutorial following Blaze, Angular, or React. And I'm like, well, wait a minute now. If you're not doing front end, what the hell is that? You're like, ah. So Blaze seemed more like a template because I knew React was pretty.
I'll be honest with you. Blaze is new to me.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's.
But it's been 5 minutes since I've been on Hack News, so
true.
Could have been outside. But yeah, no. I mean, it's that's one of the reasons why I like to. So I used Angular 1 for years, and I was kind of heartbroken with the way Angular 2 happened and it being a much larger framework, and Angular 1 kind of being abandoning because the way I'm showing you right now is how I used to use Angular 1, little tiny islands. So basically, I want something that's about the same scope as jQuery, but more powerful than jQuery.
What would you think would be the best framework to use in like extension, building an extension? So I use, the only JS that I ever do is to augment what browser. So at work I'll have a custom, like a proprietary website that's just horrible. And it doesn't have logical defaults, etc. And I can populate all that and make stuff auto-submit when I populate something. So I like ad hoc code like that, and I'm kind of working towards building an extension to do all that. Is there an extension? What was it? Ember.js probably wouldn't be great for an extension because it wants the whole entire DOM, if I'm not misspeaking.
Yeah, although people built extensions in Ember before. Like I've built an extension, Chrome extension in Angular 1, and so by extension, Vue should work fine for that too. And I know people have done it. So basically, whatever, same rules as websites.
Yeah.
And they're a lot of fun and challenging. So good luck with that one.
Yeah, thanks.
Is there anything else?
I got one.
Sure.
Do you have any thoughts on like interactive SVGs and like inline editing and how that all kind of like?
I don't do.
Yeah, I've been like working on kind of making some interactive SVGs, and like it's really cool because you can do a lot of like inline editing, and then basically on like different hover states or like I've been using gzipped Greenstock.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then just kind of been trying my best with that. I'm pretty new, like developing, but like I've just been working, trying to teach it myself. But I've never really had much JavaScript experience either, so like front end or just like HTML and CSS. But it's like I've had a little like actually like some luck like just with like a WordPress template and getting it actually to work through. I created like a child template rather than like, and then from like the main template, and then edited it basically on like my local server rather than in an extension.
Yeah.
It's very confusing and a lot of like very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to like look into interactive SVGs, and I think there's like a lot of potential for them and a lot of cool things.
So there's so right here, so this HTML is it's SVG because SVGs are, I mean, in this case HTML, and they bind the same way to Vue as anything else in HTML binds to Vue. So it's a little bit more verbose than what you'd expect for like a typical application, but yeah, I mean, Vue works. This is SVGs, and there's transitions and animations in Vue. I was 2 videos away from getting animations in there, but it was a bridge too far, and right, and just like that. And this is the JavaScript, so it's a few lines in there, but like this right here is value to point, which is specifically dealing with circle type math, and this is some bootstrapping data. So about half of this data file like isn't stuff that you'd necessarily have to write. So it's not that much code considering. So, but yeah, it's I had the Code Platoon students. I did a little bit of volunteer work with them just to see how they would take to Vue, and one of the teams actually built their final project in Vue, but I'd shown them, which stunned me. I came out of there after a week teaching them, just not knowing if they'd pick up anything, and then I came back a month later, and one of the teams had freaking built their site in it. So apparently it is fairly intuitive, but I also had them build bar graphs using Vue because you don't need the circle math and a lot of the code in there, and they seem to do pretty okay with it. So if you go to Vue.js.org, look at the examples, and then check out the SVG graph.
Yeah, I'd love to show you like that I put together.
Oh, awesome. Oh, and I want to show you one more thing real quick. Vue, awesome. So Facebook is the site that Facebook backs React, right? This is newsfeed.facebook.com, which is a marketing site kind of explaining what's going on with the newsfeed. And this is built using Greenstock, that's why I thought of it, and Vue.
Built using what?
Greenstock and Vue. And that's an animation.
Yeah, GSAP is like GSAP, and Greenstock is the website.
Okay.
Or Greenstock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's and you used to be able to open up the Vue inspector right in here, but if you go to in updates kind of allowed people to strip out the hooks, so that way public websites aren't quite as easy to inspect with the Vue inspector. And the Vue inspector is just a thing I was showing up here in the demos, but if if you go to my GitHub profile, I cloned a backup of the news feed, and if you run that, you can actually see it in the Vue inspector and use mutate the view data and cause the slides to change and kind of see how it's all put together. But I mean, this stuff is absolutely amazing. I wish I knew how to just the way all the elements come in. I mean, and this is just beautiful. And once again, they chose that they've got teams and teams of people using React, but for whatever reason, they push this using Vue. So I think there's something about Vue that really agrees with the brains of more design-oriented developers.
So your toolkit, if you will, to build a demo was WordPress, Vue.
That's it.
With Bootstrap and jQuery enabled, or?
jQuery is in there. Bootstrap, I don't think it's in there, but I wasn't. I was using jQuery for document writing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But other than that, but yeah, it was just WordPress, the base template, and Vue. But yeah, I'll make sure to get a link to that gist up there, and in the meetup group, so you can take a look.
Cool.
All right. Anything else?
When's the recording will be posted?
Oh, let's see here. That's a good question. Well, I am recording this right now, so I'll post that to the meetup group, assuming that it came out okay. I don't know if I don't see any obvious means of recording, so I don't think So hopefully my mic picked up enough where it'll be intelligible.
You get this bar off of the screen.
Yeah. Hey, it's like.